What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video about Adobe Spark. Today I actually got a request right before I was about to shoot the video. I had planned actually to recreate something in Spark, and I just thought this would be a good teaching time, a little educational video to put together to show you guys how I would go about recreating something that's a little bit more complex than most of the shirts that I do, but I think it could be interesting. You guys can let me know down in the comments if you would give this video a like. It definitely helps us, and subscribe to the channel. Again, all that stuff helps us, and it helps me feel like we're building that sense of community here on YouTube, which is kind of my goal with doing some of these videos, to educate you guys and also grow community over here. So I'm just going to roll my little intro, and then we'll jump right into some over-the-shoulder stuff.
Flight 527, runway 8 kilo, you're cleared for takeoff.
Alright, so we are back inside of Spark. Hopefully this is starting to look a little familiar to you guys if you don't follow along in the series. And like I said, today someone sent me an image of something they wanted to recreate, actually two images of something they would like to recreate inside of Spark. I haven't done any of this work up front, so if there's a lot of editing in this video, it means as I was just trying to figure things out. But it looks pretty straightforward to me, so I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what we're going to be recreating today, and then hopefully this is just helpful for you guys to see someone work inside of Spark. I've got a lot more tip videos coming up, but this opportunity came up today, and I just thought I'd go ahead and show you guys how I would create something like this inside of Spark. I'm sure it's not going to be the exact same thing, but we could get pretty close. So the basic idea here is kind of a checklist for a kid with like cartoony pictures and, you know, areas that they could check things off. He sent over another example. So if we just take a look at this, it seems pretty straightforward. There's going to be a lot of like just trying to align things and make sure that they all line up properly. But outside of that, just, you know, some text, some boxes, some images, and it shouldn't be too hard to do. So I'm going to try and make this video not too long, but I want to show you guys, like I said, exactly how I would recreate something like this. So one of the only questions he actually sent over with this idea was how to handle like the resolution problems and what size he should make this. To me, it seems like this is a good like half sheet of paper type of design. So I'm going to go ahead and start from scratch. This button up here in the top right hand corner, go to graphic, and then we'll actually go over here to custom and be able to type in the exact sizing of a half sheet of paper. So because of an update Adobe put out a couple of months ago, we can now go to where it says pixel and actually select inches. And just from being a graphic designer and kind of experience with this industry, I know that a half sheet of paper vertically is 5.5 width by 8.5 height. So if I type that in, then that is going to handle the size that we want this, and because we're actually designing with that exact paper size, we're not going to have to worry about the resolution. The resolution is going to look good, but only because we're designing in such a large size. So we're going to go ahead and hit next, and when this loads up, actually the first thing before it loads, it's going to ask us for imagery. We might actually use a background image, but I'm going to go ahead and skip this right now, and then we'll come back to this when we're ready to add an image, when I have a better idea of exactly what I want to do. Alright, so that loaded up, didn't take too long. The first thing, as always, you want to make sure that you're coming down here and hitting this remove Spark add. You hit remove once, it's going to give you the little upsell, and then you go ahead and close that out. We just want to make sure that that add isn't on any of our projects when we go ahead and download them, because then we'd have Adobe Spark on there, and if we're trying to sell this in any capacity, we don't want Adobe Spark's name on our products. It might cause some TM problems, and we just don't want that there. So normally when I'm trying to recreate something like this, I actually go ahead and split my screen in two. So I'm going to pull that over here, I'm going to find this and actually open this back up and drag this over here. That way I can see both of these at the same time, which will be very helpful when we're trying to design this. So right off the bat, I can see that I actually don't want my half sheet of paper vertically. I want it horizontally, and a very quick way to change that without going and making a new artboard, we can just go in here to this resize tab, go to custom, and then type in our values once again here. But because I just want to flip-flop these, I can actually go ahead and hit that arrow and hit done, and it's going to change that to be vertically. So I can closely recreate what I'm seeing here in this picture. So I'm not going to recreate this perfectly, but I'm just going to be doing things so you guys kind of get the idea of how you could do this if you're going to spend a little bit more time on it. So over here on the left-hand side, it might be kind of hard to see, but that's basically just Monday through Sunday, all the days. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and start typing out some of those days, or I'll just put, day of the week, and then multiply that out 7 times, just so we can get the concept through. I'm going to go ahead and double-click on this text here. I'll say day of the week. Hit done. Now that that's where I want it, I can kind of resize this with that white handle, and then go ahead and hit duplicate on this. Do this a bunch, and as you guys may or may not be able to see, these little blue lines actually appear as we're moving this around. That lets us know that we're all lined up in the same place, which is super helpful. So I'm going to duplicate this out a few more times. What's that? 2, 5, 6, one more, 7. So now that I see how big these are going to be, I'm going to go ahead and tweak these just a little bit, but I'll come back and have these aligned kind of the way that I would have them set up if I were trying to recreate this. So as you can see, I went ahead and aligned those a little bit and actually added this square into my artboard as well, so I could align the height of these even better. So if I zoom in here, you can see that those blue lines are going to be on the top and bottom of each one of these lines. That way I know the spacing is actually even. Not the greatest way of doing that. Like I said, this is not the most robust design tool in the world, but that is one way that you can kind of still use this tool and get around some of the limitations. So that's my little free tip for you guys today. So the next thing I'm going to want to do now that I have these text boxes over here on the left-hand side is I'm actually going to add in the squares. I'm not going to do quite as many as they have here. Like I said, I just want to make sure that you guys kind of get the idea. So I'll probably just do 3 or 4. But the way that we're going to get these squares in here is actually going up to this add button up the top, go to icon, and I already typed in square because I pulled in that last one. But we're going to pick one of these squares, and then we can actually go ahead and manipulate this the way that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and resize this down just a little bit so I can fit it in here. Again, using the blue dotted line to line this up, and go ahead and stick that about where I think it should be. I'll change the color on this so we can see it a little bit better. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead, go through, duplicate this, and align this the way that I would want to. So using the small menu above, I can actually duplicate these. I can space them out, and I'm just going to keep doing that. Like I said, I'll do 3 or 4 rows, and then I'll start working my way down. And while we're fast forwarding through this a little bit, I just wanted to quickly remind you guys that down in the description below, I actually have a 25% off coupon for anyone interested in my Adobe Spark 101 course. That's where I'm putting all of my tips and tricks and the things that I've learned about Adobe Spark over the last 2 years, just in one place for you guys. It's how to use it for apparel, how to use it for KDP, all kinds of great stuff in that course. So the one thing you saw me do there was actually selecting multiple things, which you can do by clicking on them and holding down the shift button. So I'm holding shift while I click on all these. It's going to allow me to duplicate this whole row. That way I don't have to do each one of these boxes individually. And I'm actually going to go back through and try to align these a little bit more, just because it's annoying me that these are slightly off. So what I'm going to do here is actually duplicate one of these rectangles back out, rotate it, and use the long side again just to help me manipulate these a little bit better so I can line everything up. You can see they're a little out of wonk here. It'd be great if there was a ruler tool built right in, but since there's not, this is kind of my workaround. So not 100% perfect, but definitely much better than it was. The other thing you might have seen me doing there is actually nudging each one of these images, or icons I should say, which you can do with your arrow key. So if I wanted to nudge this up, you can see it slowly start moving its way up, and that's just because I'm nudging it with my arrow key instead of trying to drag it. It gives you a little bit more precision over what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and undo those nudges and delete this rectangle that we duplicated out, so that now we have kind of the way the checklist should be set up. So that to me was probably the most difficult part about this. There's definitely several different ways you could accomplish that, but now all we have to do is add some more text boxes at the top, add some imageries, some more icons up here, and then add the big title and a place for your name or a date or whatever else you want to put here. It's not too complicated from this point moving forward. So because I like to keep things uniform, I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate one of these day of the weeks out and drag this over top of this column here and change the name by double clicking inside of it and putting, you know, whatever we want to put it. I'll just put thing so we have something to take our place, but whatever you wanted this, you know, column to be, then you could add that exact name. We can make that a little bit bigger, drag that over center, make sure it's all aligned, and then we're just going to duplicate that out 4 times and put that over each one of these rows. And now we're going to look for some icons, something a little bit more fun than just a square. So we're going to go in here, go to icon, and type in toothbrush, and see what comes up. This is a nice, just clean, simple image. So if I click that, it's going to populate over here on the artboard. Again, I'm going to change the color of this so we can see it a little bit easier. And then actually go ahead and drag that in place. So I'm going to do that same thing for these other 3 and just find icons real quick for them. All right, now that we're done with that, you can see another huge selling point of using this tool is actually the icons built right in. I didn't pre-check any of these, but I just went ahead and typed in, you know, some of the icons that I was seeing over here and found imagery for each one of these. And this is all commercial free use, which is just so fantastic. And, you know, thank you, Adobe, for creating this program with all these awesome libraries baked right into this thing. So now that we have basically the layout of what this is, we could add the, you know, the title here and the name and stuff over here, but I think you guys get the idea of how to add and adjust things inside of this artboard. Now what I want to talk about is some of the colors and getting the background to be not this nasty yellow that we have here. So what I'm going to do is I am actually going to use an image. We'll see if we have anything for like nighttime sky or something, but it's probably going to be a little bit more photorealistic than how cartoony this background is. But the way I'm going to replace that is by clicking on the background, going to image, going to find free photos, and then I always select just Unsplash because I trust them more than Pixabay. I don't have any reason not to trust them, but I've just worked a lot more with Unsplash and know their library a little bit better. So like I said, I'm going to type in night sky and see what pictures we have, and there are actually some pretty cool ones in here. So let's go ahead and we could try this one out actually. So that's going to load in, and then I'm going to be able to manipulate this a little bit to make it look, you know, similar to what we have over here on the left-hand side. So this one actually doesn't look like as maybe kid-friendly. It looks a little ominous with these trees back here. I thought that would look cool, but I don't think that's really the vibe that we're going with here. So I'm going to click on this and go ahead to replace image and look for something that's maybe a little bit more colorful and not so ominous. Maybe something like this might do, or even this one looks really cool. I'll click on that one next if this one doesn't look good. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this lake down here, so I am actually going to go ahead and click on this background again and replace it, and click on this. All right, so this one's a little bit better, a little bit more colorful than the other 2, and so it's hard to see everything, so we are actually going to start changing up the colors of a lot of the icons that we dragged in here, and even some of the text boxes, and probably change this font so it sticks out a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and tweak the colors in here. It's really easy to do, I just don't want to show how repetitive this is, so I'll probably speed this next portion up, but you go ahead and click on whatever you want to change the color of, and there's a color tab here, and you can just start selecting, you know, the different colors that you'd like to make these things. All right, now I've gone through and switched all the colors out. There's 2 more things I want to do to kind of wrap this up and make this seem a little bit nicer and easier to look at. The first thing, because some of these colors are getting lost on this background, I can darken this by go ahead and click on this background, going to filters, and there's all these different filters we can apply, but I think darken is actually what I want to do, and you can start to see some of these words start to pop out a little bit better. We can hit the shuffle button, it will darken it a little bit darker for us, or even one more time and it'll bring it back lighter, but I think I like that second option of darken. That way we can actually read what's going on here. And then the last thing, these white boxes are just a little bit too white for me, so what I'm actually going to do is change the opacity, which is kind of like the ability to see through this. So just turning that down, you saw a little bit, turn it down to 75, and you can see a little bit of the background peeking through, and it makes this seem not as harsh, and they actually have done this over here on the example as well. And so I'm going to go through and change the opacity of all these now. All right, and just a few minutes later, I have all these with their opacity changed, so you get there a little bit more see-through, and just gives it a little bit better feeling than having these bright white boxes right in front of your face. I think the last thing I'll actually do to this and add a little border around the outside of this card here. You can see I was messing with it a little bit, but you can click and go to Layout here and bump up this border just a little bit. We're not trying to go too crazy here, but I think that's going to give it a nice feel, a border around this entire card, so it's not just one big picture. And because I'm not a huge fan of this yellow, I'm actually going to go ahead and click on this border, and it suggests colors because it's actually reading the colors inside your document, which is pretty cool, and I think that blue looks pretty nice, so we'll go ahead and stick with that. So not an exact like one-for-one creation. I think some of the illustrations on this one are a little bit better, but hopefully you guys got an idea of that, the power that Spark does have. It's not, you know, Adobe Photoshop. You're not able to do everything inside of this tool, but I think just thinking outside the box a little bit, how I'm aligning some of these things, it does take time and, you know, some patience and probably a good mouse, but just using this tool over and over, if you start to enjoy it, then that will encourage you maybe to move into, you know, another design software, but it's definitely possible to get things done. I mean, total work time on this, you could probably see the clock down here. I would definitely say under an hour, maybe 30 minutes, and this is me just kind of like figure out this format. This is kind of way outside my normal, you know, print-on-demand designs that I'm making, but definitely, you know, again, with a little bit of thinking outside the box, you can figure out how to do some pretty cool things inside of a Spark. So this is the part where I encourage you to, you know, send any suggestions that you guys have, or if you'd like to see something that, you know, you'd like recreated through Spark. Not everything is possible, obviously, but I'm up to the challenge to do some of these like recreate challenges or things that you guys like to see. I know that, you know, thinking outside the box, understanding how to get some graphics done outside of just my normal print on demand might be useful. So if you'd like to see anything like that, feel free to leave them down in the comments below. I'll be reading those and checking back to see, you know, if you guys have any cool ideas for me. Maybe linking a picture, that always helps, having like a little bit of reference to work off of. But yeah, I enjoyed this. We'll have more tips and tricks videos coming out this week. And I just want to again encourage you guys, if you think Spark is cool, if you want to learn how to use it for your business and see all the tips and tricks that I have, definitely go check out the course in the description below. But until next time, see you guys around.